The sky above Ethera was not like Earth's. It had 3 moons, each glowing with a soft silver light that danced over the pale blue ocean. The planet's cities floated above the waves, connected by shining bridges of glass and steel. It was a quiet night. But quiet nights often carried big storms. Liora stood at the edge of the platform watching the horizon. She was 30 years old in human years, but among her people, the Etherian she was still considered young. She was tall, with silver hair and soft blue skin that shimmered faintly under the moonlight. Her eyes glowed like distant stars, reflecting both hope and fear. Her world was changing, and she could feel it in the air. A faint rumble echoed from the distance. It was not thunder. It was something far more dangerous. She turned. "It's them," she whispered. Behind her, the city's tower lights flashed red. Alarms began to howl like wounded creatures. In every home, families rushed to seal their windows. Military drones lifted into the sky, forming defense lines over the ocean. The humans had arrived. For many years, humans had stayed far away from Ethera. The first contact had been friendly. Trade agreements, scientific cooperation, shared star maps. But humans had grown faster than anyone expected, and not everyone on Ethera trusted them anymore. Leora had once believed in peace. She had worked as a translator between the Etherians and humans, listening to every word, carrying messages between governments. She liked their strange way of speaking, their simple honesty, but recently, their ships had grown larger. Their words, sharper, and tonight, their fleet was here. The control tower doors slid open with a hiss. Commander Talik, Leora's older brother, stepped out in his black uniform. His eyes were hard as crystal. "Leora," he said sharply, "come with me." She followed him through the glowing corridors, the floor vibrating under their boots. On the walls, holograms showed the human fleet of warships moving slowly through the black sky like wolves surrounding a sleeping village. "They're not answering our hails," Talik said. "We tried all frequencies." "Maybe it's a misunderstanding," she said softly. He stopped and looked at her. "This is not a misunderstanding. This is war." The word struck her like a blade. War. It was a word they had not used for a century. Ethera had been a peaceful world for generations, but peace was fragile. And when it breaks fast. Inside the command center, screens and light maps filled the room. Officers shouted coordinates and warnings. Drones zipped across the room like metallic bees. Leora took her position near the translator console. Her hands trembled slightly. A loud crack filled the air. A flash appeared in the sky. The humans had fired a warning shot. The room fell silent. "Open a channel," Talik ordered. Leora pressed her hand on the console. A soft blue light spread under her palm. "Channel open," she said. A human voice filled the room. Deep, calm. But there was no warmth in it. "This is Captain Reeves of the Earth Federation Fleet. We come with a final offer." Talik's jaw tightened. "This is Commander Talik of Ethera. Speak." "Earth requires access to your quantum wells. We need your energy. Share it, or we will take it." Leora's heart raced. The quantum wells were the heart of their world. They powered their floating cities, their water purifiers, their defenses. Without them, Ethera would fall into chaos. Talik's voice was ice. "We cannot give you our lifeblood." "Then prepare for occupation." The signal cut. Leora closed her eyes. 100 memories rushed through her mind. Children playing near the floating gardens. The glowing rivers, the music festivals that lasted all night. All of it could vanish because of greed and fear. Talik walked to the window. "They will not stop," he said. "We must fight." Leora turned to him. "Humans are clever, but they're also desperate. If we talk, there's no time to talk." "Yes, there is." She shouted louder than she meant to. The room turned toward her, but Talik didn't scold her. He only sighed. "I know you believe in them, Leora, but this is not the same humanity you knew." She lowered her gaze. He was right. She had spent years with human scientists, engineers, explorers. She had laughed with them, shared meals, even trusted them with secrets. But the fleet in the sky was different. This was no team of explorers. This was a hammer, and Aethera was the nail. Later that night, Leora walked alone on the platform. The city lights flickered as the defense systems charged up. The air was cold and tense. In the distance, she could see the human warships, their hulls black against the starry sky. They looked silent. But she knew silence could be louder than a scream. She closed her eyes and whispered to the stars. There must be another way. Then she heard a soft sound behind her, not the steps of a soldier. Lighter, faster. She turned. A young human boy, no, not a boy, but a teenager, stood on the edge of the platform. He wore a plain white jumpsuit and had a translator band on his wrist. His eyes were wide, green like the forests of Earth. He was only 17. His name was Kai. He raised his hand slowly. "Don't scream," he said in a shaky voice. Leora stared at him. "You're not supposed to be here." "I know," he said. "I ran away from the ship." "Why?" "Because—" He swallowed hard. "Because what they're going to do is wrong." Leora stepped closer. The wind whipped through her hair. She could see he was terrified but determined. A strange kind of courage lived in his eyes. "You're part of the fleet," she said. "Yeah. My father is the chief engineer. I overheard the plan. They're going to attack at dawn. Then why tell me?" "Because I don't want to be part of this," he said. "I didn't join to steal or destroy. I joined to explore, to build. And now I don't know who they are anymore." Leora's heart ached at his words. This was the humanity she had once believed in, the one that dreamed instead of conquering. But one boy could not stop an army. Still, maybe one voice could light a spark. They hid in the shadows near the maintenance ducts. The city's defense grid was warming up, ready to unleash its first volley. But Leora had a different idea. "If we can get to the communication core," she whispered, "we might broadcast a message directly to Earth. If the people know what their leaders are doing, maybe they'll stop it." I nodded quickly. "I can help. I know their encryption systems." She raised an eyebrow. "You're just a teenager." He smirked nervously. "A smart one." For the first time that night, she almost smiled. They moved through the lower levels of the city, past glowing conduits and humming machines. Patrol drones hovered above them, scanning for intruders. Leora knew every corner of these halls. She grew up here. She had played hide-and-seek with her brother near these same pipes. They reached the communication core, a massive sphere suspended in the air, surrounded by floating rings of light. It was beautiful. And heavily guarded, Leora touched Kai's arm. "This is dangerous. If they catch us, I know," he said. "But if we do nothing, everyone loses." She nodded. Courage was not about being fearless. It was about standing up even when fear was louder. Meanwhile, in the command center, Talek paced the floor. His second officer approached. "Commander, there's movement near the communication sector." "It's unknown. Could be human." Talek's jaw tightened. "Send a team." The clock was ticking. Dawn was only 2 hours away. Back in the core, Leora climbed the support beams, while Kai opened a human interface on a hidden panel. His fingers moved fast. "I can connect their network with yours," he said. "But once I do, they'll know. Then we'll make it fast." The console beeped. A soft blue light spread across the room. Kai smiled for a moment, then his eyes widened. "They're tracing us." Leora grabbed his hand. "Then we run." But before they could move, the doors burst open. A squad of Aetherian soldiers entered, led by Talek himself. "Leora," he shouted, stunned. "What are you doing?" She stood frozen. Kai stepped forward, raising his hands again. "Please listen." Talek aimed his weapon. "You're a spy?" "No." Leora cried. "He's trying to help." Talek's face hardened. "He's the enemy." Leora shook her head. "He's a child. And he's the proof that not all humans want this war." The soldiers hesitated. No one expected to see their commander's sister standing next to an enemy. We can send a message to Earth, she said quickly. Show them what's happening. If the people know, maybe the fleet won't attack. It's too late, Talek said. No, it's not. For a long moment, the room was silent except for the hum of the communication core. Then slowly, Talek lowered his weapon. Outside, the first rays of Aethera's twin suns began to rise. And with the dawn came the shadow of war. But deep inside the city, one alien woman and one human boy had already changed the game. War might still come, but now there was a spark. And sometimes a single spark is enough to light a fire that changes everything. The sons of Aethera rose slowly over the floating city of Vera. Two pale disks climbed above the silver horizon, casting long shadows across the ocean. But this sunrise was not peaceful. It was cold and sharp, like a blade in the sky. 12 human warships hovered in formation, their black hulls gleaming like silent predators. Around the city, Aetherian defense drones waited in tight clusters. The air itself seemed to hold its breath. Inside the communication core, Leora stood beside Kai, her heart still racing from the night's events. Talek and his soldiers surrounded them. The bright light of the core painted everyone's faces in blue and white. Talek's voice broke the silence. You disobeyed me, he said slowly. Leora took a deep breath. Yes, but I did it to save us. You helped the enemy. He's not the enemy, she said, pointing to Kai. He's proof that not all humans support this attack. If we can send a message to Earth's people, maybe they will stop their fleet. The soldiers shifted uneasily. Many of them had lost faith in diplomacy years ago, but they trusted Leora. She had spoken for Aethera in the first human meetings. She had believed in peace when others wanted war. Talek looked at his sister, torn between duty and trust. And if you're wrong, she met his eyes. Then we lose everything anyway. For a long moment, no one spoke. The low hum of the communication core filled the air. Then Talek turned to his soldiers. Secure the doors. No one enters without my permission. The soldiers exchanged confused glances but obeyed. Leora exhaled shakily. It was not full approval, but it was enough. Kai stepped forward, opening his portable terminal. His hands trembled slightly, but his green eyes burned with determination. If I can break into the Federation's main channel, he said, I can broadcast your message to everyone on Earth, but once I do that, they'll find us fast. Leora nodded. We'll protect you. Talek folded his arms. You better work quickly. Kai smiled nervously. No pressure. He knelt by the control panel. Holographic symbols lit up around him, human code mixing with Aetherian systems. His fingers flew across the interface, connecting their networks like weaving threads into a single rope. Earth's firewall is strong, he muttered. But their leaders don't expect a signal from the middle of an alien city. Leora stood behind him, translating between the alien systems and Kai's code. The mix of technology was unstable. If they pushed too hard, they could blow out their entire network. But if they hesitated, the fleet would strike at dawn, and dawn had already arrived. Meanwhile, far above the planet, aboard the human flagship Titan's Edge, Captain Reeves stood on the bridge. He was a tall man with sharp features and a voice like iron. His second-in-command approached him, sir. The fleet is in position, the officer reported. We can strike the quantum wells within 30 minutes. Reeves looked out at the blue ocean below. Good. Once we control their energy, Earth will never have to beg again. The officer hesitated. Sir, there's a rumor. Someone from engineering is missing. Reeves frowned. Who? Kai Reeves. Sir. Your son. A flash of something anger pain crossed his face. But it vanished quickly. Find him now. Down in the city, Kai's terminal beeped. I'm in, he whispered. I've bypassed their outer firewall. I can open a broadcast line. Leora leaned closer. Can we make it public? Yes. Once I press this, it'll go to every civilian network on Earth. Glanced at the countdown clock on the wall. You have 10 minutes. Kai pressed the command. A loud whoosh filled the room as the communication core came alive. Bright rings of light spun around the central sphere, projecting a massive image above the city, a message forming in real time. Leora stepped forward to the microphone. Her hands were steady now. She spoke slowly, clearly. "People of Earth," she began, her voice echoing through the networks of two worlds. "My name is Leora of Ethera. I speak to you not as a soldier or an enemy, but as a living being who wants peace. On Earth, in cities filled with glowing towers and crowded streets, millions of people turned to their screens. Workers stopped at factories. Children froze at school. Soldiers in bunkers paused mid-step. A blue-skinned alien woman was speaking directly to them. "Your fleet hovers above my home," Leora continued. "Your leaders say they come to take what they need. But taking is not survival. It is destruction. We offered you friendship once. We still offer it. But if you choose to take, there will be war, and no one will win." She paused. Then she looked straight into the camera. "We believe in your people. We believe you can be better." On the flagship, Captain Reeves slammed his fist against the console. "Cut that signal." "Sir, we can't," the officer replied. "She's broadcasting through both networks. If we shut her down, Earth's civilians will know." Reeves gritted his teeth. "Find the source. Crush it. It's back in the communication core." Warning lights flashed red. Leora turned to Kai. "They're tracing us." "I know," Kai said, typing furiously. "They're sending a strike team," Talek barked to his soldiers. "Form a perimeter. No one gets through." The soldiers raised their energy rifles, taking positions around the core. Drones hovered above them, scanning for intruders. The tension was thick, like a storm before lightning. Kai's fingers blurred. "Almost done," he said. "They can't stop the broadcast now. But they can destroy us." Leora knelt beside him. "Then we fight." Above the city, 3 human dropships broke formation and began to descend like black arrows. They carried soldiers, trained, armed, under strict orders. On the bridge of the Titan's edge, Captain Reeves gave the command. "Bring my son back alive. Kill anyone else." The first dropship landed with a heavy thud on the outer platforms of the city. Metal boots hit the ground. Human soldiers moved with military precision, their weapons glowing red in the morning light. Inside the core, Talek watched the monitors. "They're here." Leora stood tall. Her fear was still there, but now it burned with something stronger. Hope. The battle began quickly. Human soldiers stormed the outer corridor. Etherian defenders opened fire, blue energy bolts flashing against metal armor. The air filled with sound shouts, footsteps, explosions. Talek led the defense. He moved like a shadow, calm and deadly. "Hold the line," he shouted. "Protect the core." Leora stayed with Kai, but the room shook with each impact. Dust fell from the ceiling. The floor vibrated under her boots. Kai whispered, "My dad will come for me." She glanced at him. "Your dad?" He hesitated. "Captain Reeves? He's my father." Leora's eyes widened. For a moment, the chaos faded, replaced by cold understanding. The enemy commander was his father. That meant things were even more dangerous. At the outer door, soldiers clashed. Energy fire flashed in all directions. But the Etherians were not weak. They fought with strategy, using the city's architecture to their advantage. Still, humans pushed closer. Talek fell back to the inner ring, breathing hard. A laser burn marked his shoulder. "They're too many," he growled. Leora stood. "Then we make them listen. We're still working at the terminal." "The broadcast is reaching Earth," he said. "People are reacting. I'm seeing spikes in the public network. Protests, messages, demands."
Oh.
Leora felt a surge of hope. "Then they know." "Yes, but my father won't stop because of protests." The door burst open. Captain Reeves stepped inside wearing black armor. His eyes locked on Kai. "Son." Kai froze. Dad. Leora moved in front of him. "Stay back." Reeves raised his weapon. "This is between me and him," Kai said, voice shaking but firm. "This is between you and what's right." Reeves took a step forward. You don't understand, Kai. Earth is dying. We need their energy. Billions depend on us. Leora met his gaze. And how many will die here to feed your world? Reeves didn't answer. His jaw clenched. Step aside. But Kai didn't. He stood taller. No, the soldiers hesitated. None of them had expected to face their captain's son. Talek raised his weapon. So did Reeves. The room felt like a frozen battlefield, ready to explode with one wrong word. Leora spoke softly. You don't have to do this. Reeves' voice broke slightly. I have no choice. Yes, Kai whispered. You do. He slowly lowered his terminal and stepped toward his father. You always told me humanity was strong because we made our own choices. Not because we took from others. Reeves' hand trembled. For the first time, doubt cracked his iron mask. Outside, human soldiers received conflicting orders. Some slowed down. Some stopped firing altogether. The message Leora had sent was spreading not just to civilians, but also to soldiers' families, their loved ones. On Earth, people filled the streets. Thousands, then millions. Screens showed the alien woman and her plea for peace. Messages poured into military channels. The fleet began to fracture. In the core, Reeves lowered his weapon slightly. You've started something you can't control. Kai met his father's eyes. Maybe, but maybe that's what humanity needs. Reeves stared at his son for a long time. The battle outside began to quiet. Some human soldiers were laying down their weapons. Others waited, confused. Then Reeves turned away. Pull the troops back, he ordered. The soldiers stared at him, shocked. Sir? That's an order. Talek stepped forward. Is this a trick? Reeves shook his head. I can't promise peace. But I can stop the bloodshed today. Leora felt her chest tighten. Why? Reeves looked at his son. Because he reminded me who we're supposed to be. Kai lowered his gaze, tears burning in his eyes. He had done what he came for. The human warships drifted away from the city of Vera, leaving behind a bruised but breathing world. For the first time in days, the sky was quiet. The sea below shimmered under the twin suns like a silver mirror. But inside the floating city, everyone knew this was not the end. It was only the calm before something bigger. Humanity had stepped back. But not all humans agreed with the captain's choice. Leora stood on the high platform overlooking the ocean. The wind pushed her silver hair across her face. She had not slept since the battle. Her mind was full of questions, fears, and tiny sparks of hope. Behind her, footsteps echoed on the metal floor. She turned to see Kai walking toward her. He wore a light Etherian jacket now, borrowed from the medical bay. His face was tired but determined. They're still out there, Kai said softly. Leora nodded. I know. Up in orbit, aboard the human flagship Titan's Edge, Captain Reeves stared out of the main window. Stars burned silently beyond the black hull of the ship. His second-in-command entered the bridge. Captain, some of the other ships are not responding to your recall order. Reeves's jaw tightened. Who? Iron Fist, Spearhead, and Aurora. They've activated their attack engines again, sir. Admiral Grant is taking control. Reeves closed his eyes for a moment. Admiral Grant, a man who believed strength solved everything. A man who saw Ethera not as a living world, but as a resource to take. Prepare the fleet, Reeves said. This isn't over. Down in the city, Talek gathered the Defense Council. Holographic maps covered the room, showing the human fleet splitting into two groups, one retreating with Reeves, the other tightening formation under Grant. Talek's voice was hard. We have 12 hours. Maybe less. Can we win another fight? One of the generals asked. Talek shook his head. Not if they come with full strength. Leora stood at the edge of the table listening. Her heart was heavy. The spark they had started had reached Earth, but the fire had not yet spread far enough. It had to grow faster. She spoke quietly, but her voice carried through the room. We can't win with weapons alone, but we can win with the truth. Talek frowned. Truth won't stop missiles. It might stop the people firing them, she replied. Kai stepped forward. She's right. People on Earth are already protesting. My father told me before he left the surface, millions are watching. If we can keep showing them the truth, they might force the admirals to stop. Reeves activated a private transmission to the planet. Leora's face appeared on his screen. They're moving, he said. She nodded. I saw. Grant won't stop. He's convinced the people of Earth will support him. If he's right, Athera will burn, and we prove him wrong, she said. You still have allies? Some ships are loyal to me, but I can't fight Grant directly. If I start a civil war in space, millions will die. Leora thought fast. Then we give the people a reason to choose. A reason so strong no one can ignore it. Later that night, deep inside the communication core, Kai and a team of Etherian engineers worked side by side. Their hands moved over consoles, mixing alien and human technology. The room hummed like a giant heart. Kai explained the plan. We can send a direct broadcast to every ship and every colony on Earth. Not just words this time. Images. Everything. Live. If we show them the truth about Grant's attack, people will rise. Leora nodded. And they won't be able to erase it. Talek crossed his arms. That will make us a target. They'll strike fast. Kai met his eyes. Then we strike faster with words, not weapons. High above the planet, Admiral Grant stood on the deck of the Iron Fist. He was a tall man with a scar down his cheek, wearing a black admiral's coat. He looked out at Athera like a hunter staring at prey. An officer approached him. The fleet is ready. Once we fire, the Etherian defense grid will fall in minutes. Good, Grant said coldly. Reeves lost his nerve. But I will finish this. Sir, the officer asked carefully, what about the protests on Earth? Grant smirked. The people will forget once we bring home the power they need. But not everyone on the bridge agreed. Whispers were spreading among the crew. People had seen Leora's first message. Some of them were no longer sure. Dawn came again to Athera. Leora stood at the platform with Kai and Talek as the human fleet began to move. The Iron Fist led the formation. Its engines burned red, cutting through the sky like a scar. The broadcast system was ready. The city's communication towers glowed blue, reaching far beyond their usual range. Kai's fingers hovered over the command key. Once I press this, he said, there's no turning back. Leora placed a hand on his shoulder. Then let's make it count. Press the key. All across Earth, screens lit up again. In crowded cities, in quiet farms, in orbiting stations, people stopped to watch. This time, it wasn't just Leora's voice. It was Image Ezreal time footage from the sky above Athera. A massive fleet was moving to attack a peaceful city. Leora spoke to the camera. This is not a war of survival. This is a war of choice. Admiral Grant chooses to take by force. Captain Reeves chose to step back. What will humanity choose? The message was simple, clear, impossible to twist. On the Iron Fist, Grant slammed his hand against the console. Cut that signal. Sir, his officer stammered, it's not just the Etherian network. Reeves is boosting the signal from his ships, too. Grant's eyes burned with rage. Then destroy them both. But his crew hesitated. Some lowered their eyes. Some whispered. And some didn't move at all. On the Titan's edge, Reeves gave the final order. Hold position. No fire. One of his younger officers turned. Sir, if Grant attacks, we can't stop him. Reeves looked at the camera, at the image of his son standing next to Leora. His voice was calm. No. But if he attacks now, the whole galaxy will see him for what he is. The human fleet split in the sky, half with Reeves, half with Grant. A silent line stretched between them, like a blade about to break. GRN growled. All ships, open fire. But not all ships responded. On the bridge of the Aurora, the captain, a woman with short dark hair, stood still. No, she said. This isn't what we signed up for. Her crew nodded. One by one, ships turned off their targeting systems. Grant's face turned red with fury. Cowards. The first missile launched a single flash in the sky. Grant had fired from his own ship. Leora saw it coming on the monitors. Incoming. Talek shouted orders. Activate the shields. The missiles struck the city's barrier. A flash of light filled the sky. The shield held but just barely. The ground shook. Buildings trembled. Alarms screamed, but something else happened too. The people of Earth saw the attack live. Millions of voices rose across the network. Protests turned to demands. Some ships in Grant's fleet switched sides immediately. On the Iron Fist, his crew stared at him in silence. One young pilot removed his headset. "Sir, we can't do this." Grant turned on him like a storm. "You obey my command." "No," the pilot said softly. "I obey humanity. And humanity isn't this." Others followed. Weapons powered down, shields lowered. One by one, Grant's own people turned against him. Grant roared in rage and grabbed his sidearm. But before he could act, his security team disarmed him. The admiral who believed in power was suddenly powerless. The fleet fell quiet above Ethera. Warships that had once come as conquerors now hung still, their engines fading. Liora watched from the platform, tears stinging her eyes. "It worked," she whispered. Kai let out a shaky laugh. "They chose." Talik finally smiled. A rare thing. They did. On Earth, governments scrambled to respond to the flood of public messages. The voice of the people was too loud to ignore. A new treaty was signed in a single day, the fastest in history. Ethera would share technology and knowledge, but not through war. Through cooperation, Captain Reeves stepped down as commander, but not in shame. In honor, he had chosen peace over conquest. Many followed his example. Admiral Grant was taken into custody. The war that almost started became the moment humanity remembered its conscience. A week later, the skies above Ethera were full of peaceful shuttles instead of warships. Aid and envoys arrived. The floating city was no longer alone. Liora stood again on the high platform. But this time, she was not looking at a dark fleet. She was looking at hundreds of lights. Kai stood beside her, wearing a new uniform, not of a soldier, but of a bridge builder between two worlds. "Do you think it will last?" Kai asked softly. Liora turned to him. "It will if we keep choosing it," he smiled. "Then let's keep choosing." Talik joined him, his arms still bandaged but his eyes proud. "I never thought I'd say this," he said with a small grin. "But maybe humans aren't as bad as I thought." Kai laughed. "We try." Liora looked at the stars. "This is only the beginning. There are other worlds out there. Other wars waiting to start. Maybe we can stop them before they do."